My name is Ava Carter. I'm 28 years old, and this is the night I learned how loud silence can be, when it finally turns against the people who laughed first. I was standing in my mother's living room, holding a paper plate with cold pasta on it, when Ryan decided to make me the joke of the evening. Ryan, my sister Lily's boyfriend. Tailored suit, expensive watch, that kind of smile that only appears when an audience is watching. The room was full. Family, friends, neighbors, people who had known me since I was a kid. Ryan lifted his glass and said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "So, Ava? Still between jobs?" A few chuckles. Someone coughed. I felt my sister tense beside him, but she didn't stop him. I smiled politely. "Yeah," I said softly, still figuring things out. Ryan laughed, not kindly, not awkwardly, confidently. "Must be nice," he added. "Some of us actually have careers." This time, the laughter spread. I felt my face burn. I felt smaller with every sound. My aunt leaned toward someone and whispered, not quietly enough. She was always the slow one. Ryan wasn't done. He put his arm around Lily and said, "I told her, ambition is attractive. Drive is attractive. Sitting at home waiting for miracles? Not so much." More laughter. My mother stared at her hands. My sister looked away, and I stood there, unemployed, unimpressive, invisible. Or so they thought. Because what no one in that room knew, what Ryan didn't know when he smirked, was that I wasn't unemployed. I was unannounced. You see, 6 months earlier, I'd walked away from a corporate job that nearly broke me. I didn't post about it. I didn't explain myself. I didn't beg for approval. Instead, I built something. Quietly. While Ryan was busy networking at loud bars, I was signing contracts. While they were laughing at me over dinner, I was preparing a presentation for the following morning. A presentation Ryan was going to be at, because Ryan worked in commercial real estate. And the company he'd been bragging about all night, the one on the verge of a massive deal, they were pitching to my firm. I took a slow breath, set my plate down, and looked at Ryan. "You're right," I said calmly. "Ambition is attractive." He raised an eyebrow, amused. "So is timing." The laughter faded, just a little. Ryan tilted his head. "What's that supposed to mean?" I smiled, not the polite one this time, the real one. "It means," I said, reaching into my bag, "you might want to check your email." The room went quiet. Ryan scoffed, but he pulled out his phone anyway. His smile disappeared. Color drained from his face. Lily looked at him. "Ryan?" He didn't answer, because sitting in his inbox, timestamped 2 minutes ago, was an official notice. The deal was canceled, not postponed, not renegotiated, canceled. Ryan laughed nervously. "This isn't funny." "I know," I said. "That's why I didn't laugh." Everyone was staring now. Ryan looked at me, eyes sharp. "What did you do?" I met his gaze, calm, steady. "I'm the managing partner of the investment group reviewing your firm's performance," I said. "And tonight, you failed the character assessment." You could hear breathing. Someone dropped a glass. My mother's head snapped up. My aunt's mouth fell open. Ryan stammered. You said you were unemployed." I shrugged. "I said I was figuring things out." Silence swallowed the room. Lily whispered, "Ava, is this true?" I turned to my sister, my voice gentle. "It's been true for a while." Ryan stood up too fast, knocking his chair back. "You embarrassed me," he hissed. I tilted my head. "No," I said softly. "I let you embarrass yourself." I picked up my bag and walked toward the door. Behind me, no one laughed. Not a single sound. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small walking out of that room. I felt free. Because the best revenge isn't yelling, isn't proving, isn't begging to be seen. It's letting the people who mocked you realize they were never looking at the full picture. The laughter faded, but the damage had just begun. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I regretted what I said, but because for the first time my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Missed calls, unknown numbers, texts that started polite and ended desperate. Ryan called 8 times. I didn't answer. The next morning I sat in a glass conference room overlooking downtown, coffee untouched, watching my team take their seats. No one here knew me as the unemployed sister. They knew me as Ms. Carter, respected, careful, unforgiving when trust was broken. My assistant leaned in. Ryan Hale is in the lobby. He says he has an emergency. I exhaled slowly. Tell him we don't do emergencies for people who failed due diligence. 10 minutes later, my sister called. Ava, what did you do? Her voice wasn't angry. It was scared. I told the truth, I said. She whispered. Ryan's firm is panicking. Investors are pulling out. He says you ruined his career. I closed my eyes. No, I replied. He ruined his career when he thought character didn't matter. There was a pause, then softer. Why didn't you tell me who you really were? That one hurt. I didn't hide, I said. You just stopped asking. Silence. That afternoon, the story spread. Not online, not publicly, but in the quiet ways that mattered. Boardrooms, emails marked confidential, phone calls that started with, off the record. Ryan's name became a warning. Talented but reckless. Smart but arrogant. Unreliable under pressure. By evening, his company placed him on temporary leave. Temporary is what people say when they don't want to say finished. That night, my mother came to my apartment. She stood in the doorway like she used to when I was a teenager, unsure whether to lecture me or hug me. I didn't know, she said quietly. I know, I replied. She looked around my apartment. Minimal, clean, purposeful. This is your life now? I nodded. She swallowed. We laughed. I didn't answer. Because what was there to say? The damage wasn't in the joke. It was in the permission they gave it. 2 days later, Ryan showed up uninvited. Suit wrinkled, confidence cracked. You planned this, he said, standing too close. I didn't move. No, I said. I survived. There's a difference. He clenched his jaw. You cost me everything. I looked him dead in the eye. You tried to cost me my dignity in front of people I loved. This is just the interest. His phone buzzed. He checked it, then checked it again. His face went pale. What is it? I asked calmly. They're opening an internal investigation, he whispered. Someone filed a complaint. From months ago. I picked up my coat. That wasn't me, I said. But when people start looking closely, they usually find what's been hidden. I walked past him, and for the first time, Ryan looked the way I felt that night at dinner. Small, exposed, and alone. But this wasn't the end. Not even close. Because once people stop laughing at you, they start watching. All right. Now it turns cold, quiet, and calculated, where I stop reacting and start controlling the story. By the time people stopped asking questions, I already had answers. Not for them. For me. Ryan's investigation moved fast, faster than anyone expected. When a company panics, it looks for a sacrifice. And Ryan had given them plenty of reasons. Late emails, aggressive negotiations, promises he couldn't back up, things people had ignored, until they started watching. My name never appeared in the reports. I made sure of that. Revenge doesn't scream. It whispers, and lets others do the damage. Meanwhile, my sister moved out of his place. She didn't tell me at first. I found out when she showed up at my door with one suitcase and red eyes. I didn't know who he really was, she said. I handed her water. You did, I replied gently. You just didn't think it mattered. She looked at me then, really looked. You're not angry, she said. I was, I answered. Anger just stopped being useful. She nodded slowly, like that scared her more than yelling ever could. The dinner party replayed itself everywhere, not in words, in behavior. Family members who once laughed now texted carefully. Compliments replaced jokes. Invitations arrived early, with apologies built in. I declined most of them. Access is earned, not assumed. At work, my partners asked if I wanted to pursue Ryan's firm further. One signature could finish them. I thought about it, about the laughter, about my mother's silence, about how easy it would be to destroy everything connected to him. Then I said, no, we're done here. They looked surprised. I smiled. The goal isn't to crush people, I said. It's to remove them from your future. Ryan tried one last time. An email. Subject line, let's talk like adults. I didn't open it, because adults don't mock people for sport and call it confidence. A week later, his firm let him go. No announcement, no goodbye email, just erased. And that's when the power shifted. Not because he fell, but because I didn't chase the fall. I focused on what was next. A new fund, a new direction, a quiet rebrand that placed my face nowhere near the spotlight. Because visibility is a choice. One evening, my sister asked me, "Do you ever feel bad?" I thought for a moment. "No," I said. The message stayed on my screen longer than it should have. You don't know everything. No name, no context. Just a threat dressed like confidence. I didn't reply. People who want power always want a reaction first. Instead, I did what I've learned to do best. I investigated 3 calls, 1 favor, a background check that dug deeper than public records. The sender wasn't Ryan. It was his former partner, a man who knew where the bodies were buried and wanted insurance. Ryan hadn't just been arrogant, he'd been careless. Misreported numbers, side deals, emails he assumed would never be read again. And suddenly, I understood. The laughter at that dinner wasn't random. It was projection. People mock what they're afraid will be discovered. I passed everything, every document, every timeline. To the board. Not anonymously, not emotionally, professionally. Within 48 hours, an audit was launched. Within 72, the firm froze assets. Within a week, Ryan's name became unsearchable in serious rooms. He tried calling. I blocked him. Then he showed up at my mother's house. This time, she didn't let him in. He asked about you, she told me later. I said you were busy. I smiled. I was. The final moment came quietly. No confrontation, no speech, just a headline buried on page 6 of a business brief. Former executive under investigation for misconduct. No photo, no quote, just truth, catching up. At the next family gathering, no one joked. No one asked what I did for work. They listened. My sister squeezed my hand and whispered, "I'm proud of you." I nodded, not because I needed it, but because it was finally real. Later that night, I stood alone on my balcony, city lights humming below. I thought about the girl holding a paper plate, smiling through humiliation. She didn't disappear. She evolved. Because the truth is, they didn't underestimate my job. They underestimated my silence. And silence, when paired with patience, is louder than laughter. So if you're ever mocked for being behind, for being nothing, for not performing your success on command, remember this. Some people announce their power. Others wait until it speaks for itself. And when it does, everyone listens.